Today's objective is I can order and compare fractions by using models and an understanding of the concept of a numerator and denominator. Put these in order from least to greatest: 2/3, 5/6, 4/12, 0/3, and 8/8. First thing I want to do is visualize the fractions. It's hard to just look at a list of numbers and know how to order them without having a good visual picture of them. So what we're going to do is use our fraction cards off to the side to help us visualize each fraction first. Then we'll go ahead and put them in order. Let's start with the first one. 2/3 means 2 parts out of 3 are shaded. So this card right here is divided into 3 sections. I'm visualizing 2 of the sections as filled in. 5/6 means 5 parts out of 6 are shaded. 5 out of 6 is almost the entire card. That's a big amount that is shaded. It would be about that much, 5 out of 6 sections. Next one, 4/12 means 4 parts out of 12 are shaded. Notice each part gets really, really small because we have to divide this card up now into 12 pieces, and only 4 of them are shaded. The next one, 0/3 means 0 parts out of 3 are shaded, so nothing gets filled in. And my last one, 8/8 means 8 parts out of 8 are shaded. The whole entire card, even though the parts are really small, all of them are getting shaded in. We're going to now use this to help us put the fractions in order. On the next slide, you'll notice that I have gone ahead and shaded in the whole card so that you can see it a little bit easier. Our job now is to take these cards and put them in order from least to greatest. So let's look at the amount of blue that's shaded. Is there any blue shaded at all in this card? No, there's not. So that's our smallest fraction. 0/3 is going to be first on our list because we want our list from least, meaning smallest, to greatest. Now I'm going to look which one comes next. This card right here, this would be our 4 out of 12 shaded. This one has the smallest amount of blue filled in. It is more than 0/3 because we do have some blue shaded, but it's not as much as the other fractions. So next on the list would be 4/12. Okay, moving on to the one that has the next amount of blue. Jumping over to this card. This one was our 2/3. If you notice 2 parts, if we look at the size of this section, this is 1 part, this would be another part, and another part. So this is our 2/3, has the next amount of blue shaded. It's our next largest fraction. Now we're going to move on. We have 2 cards left, this one and this one. This one is obviously our largest fraction because the whole card is filled in. So that leaves us over here with this one next. This is 5/6. 5 parts out of 6 filled in. And then finally, our last one was 8/8. Anytime you have the same number in the numerator as the denominator, that's the same thing as 1 whole. So here's our list. We have 0/3, 4/12, 2/3, 5/6, and 8/8. They are now in order from least to greatest. We can also think of fractions in terms of a line. When we measure, we use fractions. The inch is divided up into a lot of different parts. So what we're going to do now is put some different fractions here: 1/4, 2/8, 1/2, 0/2, and 8/8. We're going to put them in order from least to greatest, but we're going to put them on a ruler to help us visualize. So let's think first about 1/4. This means 1 part out of 4 in an inch. So if I look down here, this is my inch. Here's where it starts. Here's where it stops. This would be 1 whole inch. I want to imagine this inch is divided into 4 sections. So here's 1, and then notice the lines on the ruler are a little bit longer to help you see that. Here's 2 parts, 3 parts, and this would be the last part. So our ruler is now divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. 1/4 of the inch would be right here, this first section out of 4. So this is where 1/4 would go. Let's look at another fraction. This one says 2/8. This means 2 pieces out of 8. So now when I look at this inch, I want to imagine it divided into 8 sections instead of 4. I'm going to switch pen colors so we can see that a little bit easier. Okay, well, if I double 4, I would get 8. So what I'm going to do to double it is cut each of the fourths in half. So this would be 1 piece. Notice the pieces are getting smaller. 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces, 6 pieces, 7 pieces, and 8 pieces. Now that inch is divided up into eighths, 8 sections. And I want to figure out where is 1/8. 1/8 would be one of these little sections. So right here, this is where 1/8 would go. All right, let's look at the next fraction. This is 1 piece out of 2, 1/2. I'm going to look at this inch and cut it into 2 pieces. That would be right here. This would be where 1/2 would go, 1 part out of 2. Next fraction, 0/2. That'd be 0 pieces out of 2. I'd be right here at the beginning. I haven't moved at all if I have 0 in the numerator. 0/2 goes right there. And finally, 8/8. Well, we've already divided into eighths. That's where the little red lines were. So this would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8 brings me to 1 whole. Again, when that number in the numerator is the same as the number in the denominator, then you have 1 whole, in this case 1 whole inch. Now all the fractions are already in order, so I just need to rewrite them. So if I was putting them in order from least to greatest, you can see that 0/2 comes first, and then we have 1/8 comes next, and then I would have 1/4, then I would have 1/2, and finally my largest fraction on that list would be 8/8. Now let's use a ruler to measure some segments to the nearest 1/2 inch. There are 2 segments in red, and underneath them we have some questions. The first question says, how long is QC? And there's a symbol of a segment. I want to look up above. This is segment CQ, but remember with segments you can read them backwards too. So I can also say this is segment QC. And I want to measure it to the nearest 1/2 inch. I'm going to take the edge of my ruler and line it up with the C. I don't want the very edge of my ruler because this is not where my measurements start. On this ruler, the measurements start right where this black line is. I want that even with C. Now I want to look at how long is this segment. It goes past 1 inch, past 2 inches. It does not hit 3 inches. And I need to decide, is it closest to 2, closest to 2.5, or is it closest to 3? You can see that this is almost touching the 3, so in this case, this segment, QC or CQ, is closest to 3 inches. So we'll go ahead and write that here. Now, sometimes kids can get confused because they see this 1/2 and it makes you think there has to be a 1/2 in your measurement, and that is not the case. Again, when we look at this ruler, we just want to think every jump would be equal to a 1/2. So 2 would be right on the unit, then we can jump to 2.5. It might land there, and then if we jump another 1/2, we could end up on the 3. So it's just a way to look at the jumps on a ruler. Doesn't mean your answer has to be a 1/2. So QC again was 3 inches. Now we want to figure out how long is segment TL. So we're going to hold our ruler up to TL, make sure that it's lined up in the right place. This time we want to say, is it closest to 1, is it closest to 1.5, or is it closest to 2? It goes past the 1, but now I have to decide, is it closest to 1 or is it closest to 1.5? The halfway point can help you. If it's longer than this halfway point, then it would be closer to 1.5. We can see that the tip just goes past this little mark here, so this would be closest to 1.5 inches. So how long is TL? In this case, we do have a half measurement in there. It would be closest to 1.5 inches. That's it for today.